This week, the Bureau of Labor Statistics announced the U.S. economy added 818,000 fewer jobs from March 2023 to 24 than what they had previously reported. Quite a revision, almost 1 million jobs. This is by far the largest revision in 15 years, and it, of course, comes as Democrat presidential nominee Kamala Harris works to distance herself from Bidenomics and frankly, the Biden-Harris administrative failures that she herself has been involved with. They did not address the economic issues facing our country, including inflation and a host of other things. Well, joining me now to discuss this is Congressman Ron Estes. He serves on multiple committees in Congress, the Budget Committee, the Ways and Means Committee. He's one of these that's heavily involved in multiple areas, but particularly anything that has to do with economic issues. He represents the 4th Congressional District of Kansas. Congressman Estes, always great to have you back on the program. Good to see you, my friend.
Well, it's good seeing you too, Jody. Thanks for having me on again.
Always good to have you. All right, what do you make of these revised numbers? The job growth was not nearly what they said it was. What do you make of all this?
Yeah, it really is. The truth's actually coming out. I mean, the Biden-Harris administration has been talking about supposedly all these jobs that he created. And in reality, what's happened is 2/3 of the jobs that have happened over the last 3.5 years were jobs that came back after the COVID shutdown. So they really weren't creating jobs. Labor force participation is nowhere near as high as what it was under President Trump. And now we're seeing that the actual facts are coming out that over the last year, they've overstated by 68,000 jobs a month, or over 800,000 jobs, the number of people that were actually working. And it's reflective of what we're seeing. The folks that I talk to here, and both in Kansas as well as around the country, is the economy is not in good shape, that are starting to struggle a little bit. People are having a hard time suffering under the inflation consequences that came out of all of the spending that came through from these ideas that Biden and Harris administration have promoted, whether it's more regulations, whether it's some of the big giveaway programs that they've promoted, and just in general, a higher level of spending. And it's tough now for Americans out across the country.
Yeah, even Bernie Sanders admitted that last night, which was quite shocking. He admitted how many families are struggling. And so we come to talk about all the working families. We got jobs reports is nowhere near accurate, trying to make people think that things are a whole lot better than they really are. And so what do we do with this? It seems like this administration over and over tries to present some sort of rosy jobs report that is not accurate, as you just referenced, even on a monthly basis. Is all of this just an outright deliberate lie, trying to throw one over on the American people?
Yeah, it almost seems that way. I mean, when you look at over and over again repeated instances of where the facts come out that are completely different than what's been presented from either statements that President Biden said or Vice President Harris has said, or their folks that work for them. And it's really unfortunate. You can run down the litany of different cabinet agencies, even including the Department of Justice, where instances where they said one thing and when in reality the facts came out that something else was true. And that's really a sad reflection on our government. We want to make sure that whether there's a Democrat that's elected as the president or a Republican that's elected as the president, the government ought to be working for all the people and not making stuff up along the way so that we have to come back in a situation like this and the truth comes out. And more often than not, they try to hide it along the way. We need to make sure that the government's providing truthful information so that people can make decisions on whether they're voting decisions or whether they're decisions about investments or how do you support your family, what kind of work you can do, what kind of monetary spending you can make because of what you know you have available.
Yeah, I mean, there's also a trust factor in all of this. I mean, do you think that, future jobs report, how much trustworthiness will there be with future jobs reports? Should people trust what they hear?
Yeah, it really is a reflection, and we're suffering consequences. Back in 2021, when President Biden came into office, he and Vice President Harris were talking about that there wasn't going to be inflation with all of their spending programs. The Federal Reserve stepped in and agreed with them, and we're talking about it was only going to be transitory inflation. And then lo and behold, the Federal Reserve had to raise all these interest rates. And so now we've seen suffering for the last 3 years on higher interest rates. Federal Reserve now looks like it is going to have to start or will start lowering those interest rates probably in September. But it does create concerns for anybody that's making decisions around whether you start a new plant or whether you look for a new job for yourself, or decisions that you make about whether you want to buy a new home for your family or a car, because you don't know what the truthful story is about the economy. And so we need to make sure that our government particularly works for all the people and is truthful in the decisions and the announcements and information that it gives out.
Absolutely. Do you think as the truth continues to come out on this, that it will have an impact on voters' opinions?
I think it really will, as we're starting to see. I mean, people have been suffering for almost a year now. And when you look at how much credit card debt has gone up, how much that people are having to spend for anything from food to gasoline, groceries, buying school supplies for your kids to go back to school. And now as we roll over the next 76 days towards the election, I think people are going to realize that, the last 3.5 years of the Biden-Harris administration was not good from an economic standpoint. And you compare that to the 4 years when President Trump was in office, and we did have a growing economy. We had job increases, we had wage increases, and it was positive things. And I think it's going to have an impact when people realize that the policies President Trump is promoting were better than the policies that President Biden and Vice President Harris put in place.
Congressman Ron Estes from Kansas, thank you so much for breaking this down for us. We appreciate it a great deal.